I started signing some autographs. There were very few people around. Look at y'all, that's great. So, let me tell you a funny story. Years ago in Philadelphia, there used to be a lot of interview shows. Mike Douglas, does that mean anything? So, years ago, many years ago, my father died, and obviously my mother was left alone. And some years went by, and my parents had always gone down to Miami from Montreal. Canadian snowbirds. They would go down to Miami and have a good time for several weeks to avoid the Canadian winter. So my father died, and my mother mourned him for several years. Then she continues to go down to Miami by herself, and she meets a man there. Lovely gray-haired man, a jeweler. And he's from Philadelphia. And they have a good time. I don't quite know what that means, and I don't want to examine it because it's my mother. So she falls in love, and then the time is over in Miami, and she goes back to Montreal, and somebody asks me to be on an interview show here in Philadelphia. So I'm in a conversation with my mother, and I say, I'm going to Philadelphia. She says, okay. I saw a lovely man in Miami, we had a good time together. Would you talk to him and see what he's like and see if you think he's nice? So I call him up, and his name is Bob, and I say, Bob, Bill Shatner, I'm going to be in your city. I'm going to be talking for a while, and I have some free time. Do you have some time to see me for dinner? And he says, yes. And I said, there's a great restaurant there, Book Pipers. So he said, I know, and I'll meet you there at 5 o'clock. And I do the interview show, and then I come to Book Pipers, and there's this lovely man with gray hair, a nice looking guy, a jeweler, and that means I discovered that a jeweler looks at life from whatever you call that thing, the eye thing. They're filled with detail, like little, should we get 2 or 3 pieces of bread? I mean, it's wild. So I talked to him, we get along, it was fine, and then I said to him, do you like my mother? He goes, lovely. I said, well, what are your intentions? He said, well, I'd love to marry her. And I realized that I'm interviewing my father. And it's nice enough and good for my mom and finding someone in later life, and it was all went very well. But what a sensation to be sitting in Book Pipers across a gentleman that I'd never met before, who was about to become my father. That was one experience in Philadelphia. I was on Broadway several times, and we'd come to Philadelphia in those days. I don't know about it now, but in those days, we would open probably in Philadelphia, go to New Haven, and then emerge on Broadway. But the theater we booked here was designed by a renowned architect, was my understanding, many years ago. Renowned architect designed the whole theater. And he was wonderful. He thought of everything, except one thing. They finished the building and they said, oh my God, we forgot. Dressing rooms for the actors. There was no place for the actors to go. So they had to buy or rent a building across the alleyway to house the actors sometimes, many of them, if it was a musical, they needed a lot of room, and if it was a play, less room, but they still needed rooms for the actors to go into, to make up and all that kind of. So it became a real peculiarity for this wonderful theater where you had to go across the aisle, across the lane away, into the pouring rain, if it was raining, to put your makeup on or to get out of the way during intermission. Philadelphia, I've loved it ever since. So here I am. I just got back. I was in Nashville Sunday night. I was there to meet a friend of mine, Brad Paisley, and I was there to cut an album that Robert Shatner and I had done 2, maybe 3 albums before. We had written the lyrics. I thought the lyrics were fabulous, and so did they. And Brad, who was a friend of mine, agreed to make the album with us. And I had the most creative, what's the word, innately passionate time on Monday and Tuesday doing this album, which will be out in a few months. Suffice to say that in June, middle of June, I will be in Seattle with Neil deGrasse Tyson at a theater. Yeah, and we're really excited. We had been to the South Pole together a couple of months ago. So Neil and I provided entertainment, if you will, at night after we've been out in the Zodiacs and holding hands with penguins. We provided the entertainment at night, and from time to time the two of us would get on stage together, and given his vast knowledge of everything and my ignorance in everything, it was a good oddity, the odd couple. So we had fun and we amused the audience, and we decided that we would try and do it in a theater on the mainland of America. So we booked the theater in Seattle, 3,000 seat capacity theater, and Neil and I would be in rocking chairs. So the evening is called Rockin' with Bill and Neil, and the scary thing for me is I don't know what we're going to do. The producer's charging a lot of money for each seat, and I only have a vague idea of what the evening will be. And we're working on it now, of course, but it's a totally aggravated situation, and you take a chance. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, and it's a big occasion. So that happens in the middle of June. So that's an album, and that evening we get successful, and we sell tickets, and we're good. We'll continue it on, and then I'm going on tour to 5 cities twice, October, December, I think. So I'm busy appearing in front of an audience a lot, and I hope if I come to a city near you, you'll come and see me. To applaud like that. I feel so good about that. I'll answer a question. But I'm looking at the microphone, there's nobody there. Somebody get up and ask me a question. There, somebody got it. Okay. Now, I don't know whether you know this or not. Almost kiss the microphone. That's perfect. Get all of you.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the toy unification video decision video?
Oh, the which one?
The unification video.
Which video?
The video where you got that farewell with Leonard Nimoy.
both made younger? Okay. So, technology, as we all know, is running ahead of us so quickly. I mean, I've seen images of myself. I thought it was me. Like, you could have fooled me. For a moment, I forgot we did that piece of film. But on that piece of film is me as a younger man, made by AI, and it's startling. It's the world, as we know it today, is changing as we speak. Each day, each week, each month that goes by, let alone in a couple of years, the changes in our lives through artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence encompasses making images that are artificial, images that look exactly like what it's supposed to look like. And in my case, it's supposed to look like my face. I could have sworn I didn't do it, and I didn't do it, except for part of it. So there's a piece of film out there which had Leonard been alive, we could have said, that's us when we were younger. It was so good. So what's around the corner for all of us is an imitation of life. And how to solve that, how to make sure it's really what we're seeing and it's really what we're doing is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to alter a lot of things, some of them unimaginable at the moment. For example, even I know a lot of students are using ChatGPT to do their homework. Well, I'm accessing the knowledge of the Western world through chat. Just with the press of a finger, I ask it a question and it answers me directly. Like, I'm looking up right now, even as when I have some spare time, I punch up a question. Like, I think this evening with Neil is going to be about exploration. Why do we explore? Why did we come off the tree? Why did we go leave the sustenance of Africa, where there's water and food just from the taking, and go north and go south and change our appearance as the world is changing in tectonic plates and making mountains and altering currents of air and water. So mankind had to change. And when we left Africa and we needed a lot of melanin in our skin to avoid too much D-complex and the burning of our skin from the sun and the moist air, and we went north, our skins whitened, our nose lengthened because the air was so cold, we needed to warm it before it hit our brain. We adjusted to the changing dynamics of the earth. What an incredible explanation of racism, for example, where all it happened was our bodies adjusted the way the earth was adjusted in the simple terms that our bodies were made that way to adjust to different physical circumstances. So it's been an extraordinary occasion for me to look into AI and get immediate answers, for example. Why did we explore? I came upon the magic of the explorer Magellan. Magellan turns out to be like an incredible character went insane, became a Christian proselytizer as against the geographic explorer. The story of Magellan is enormous.
Mr. Shatner, I really love your explanation about how your trip to space has impacted your perspective. I'm a STEM teacher, and so my students are here, and we love studying the impacts of space and space travel and innovation. So your perspective is really important to us. Thank you.
So, reading about Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos, a friend of mine that's a producer said, you know, you should be on that first voyage. Well, good on you. So we called Mr. Bezos and made an appointment in Seattle to visit with him at his home base, which is Amazon in Seattle. So we went up there, and gosh, in the lobby is a huge dome stand, which is covering the original Star Trek, the ship I was on, in the middle of the lobby. And I realized he was a big fan of Star Trek. Then I'd meet Jeff Bezos and go sit down somewhere with his people, and my producer, and discuss the idea of me being on the first Origin flight. There are 6, but that means 4 of the seats in the Blue Origin. And I said, you know, I should be one. He says, you're right. And we leave, and it's a good thing that it looks like it's going to happen. And then COVID hits, and everything's delayed by about a year. And a year later, I read that Bezos himself, his brother, a lady astronaut who never did go up, and a young man, an adolescent, I never found out why he had left. There were those 4 were children to go on the first voyage. I thought, okay, I guess we missed out. And they went up, and it was noted, but it wasn't big news. And then they said, would you guys like to be, would I like to be on the second one? Okay, I'll be the vice president. So, okay, I'll be on the second one. A week, 4 or 5 days before launch, I'm at the launch site in Texas, and I'm a day early. Everybody, I'm on there on Monday morning, everybody's coming in on Tuesday for a Thursday liftoff. And I'm thinking, why am I here early? What am I doing? And about 11 o'clock in the morning after breakfast, somebody says, would you like to go see the launch pad? Oh, yeah, I'll go see the launch pad. So drive 20 miles, and there is the launch pad. No rocket, it's on its side being fed the gases that will lift it off. And so I'm thinking, why am I here? And then somebody says, let's go up the gantry and see what we can see. It's 11 flights up. You're already a mile high. It's like being in Denver. So that those of you who know Denver, you land on the airplane and you get off, and you're kind of, you know, having a heart attack. It's like you're a mile in the air. I can see electronics. I see tubes of air. I said, well, that's for. What is that for? And they say, in case something goes wrong. I want to do wrong. It's an escape hatch. And I'm there, and they say, come on here, take a look down there. And I come out the gantry, there's no lobby there, I look down, and it's forever down there. And I get out of there as quickly as possible to go back to base. Why did I do that? And it occurs to me, they did that to see if this old guy could walk up 11 flights and a mile high, and they were almost right. Anyway, the few days before liftoff, what we rehearsed was we were on a kind of chair that leaned back, and we had a 5-point harness. and you can get the shoulders and the waist, but getting the groin, the fifth harness into this thing here was really difficult because we're lying back and you can't see it. And now that's all the rehearsal we did, and now we're in the spaceship, and I can't get this thing out, the groin thing, and the guy in the countdown said, all right, lift off minus 20, 19, lift off, oh, there's an whale, there's an whale. Gonna stop the countdown. What's the whale? What? You don't want anything going wrong when you're on top of a vehicle that's filled with hydrogen. Those of you who are older, maybe those of you who are younger, can remember the Zeppelin on Hindenburg. And people jumping out
That's like 3 years front.
The Hindenburg came from Germany and docked in New Jersey and caught fire. And there's an announcer, and it's famous. He was saying, "Oh, we're removing the scaffolding, and anybody who wants to leave should leave now." Okay, here I go. Oh, jeez. I'm Captain Crowder, I can't believe. So, the captain went up, and I think it was 5 G's, sat on my chest. I'm here, and there's a weight of like an elephant sitting on me. I think an elephant weighs 5 G's and sitting on my chest. And you think you're going to die, because you've never felt that before. I'm going to die. It's gone. And we're through the carbon line. We're into space. And now we're weightless. And somebody says, "You can get out now." And I release the 5-foot rod, and I start to float. Now, archaeologists digging in the ground make discoveries based on the layers of earth for where they recover something. They say, "Oh, somebody was buried 5,000 years ago. Oh, look at this, it's 10,000, there's a harness for a horse. It's 10,000 years ago that they discovered through archaeology that 10,000 years ago, horses entered into our culture. But they also discovered that the word for horse entered our language about 10,000 years ago. So people living there gave this thing a name called a horse. And so both archaeologists of the earth and the word agree that horse came into extent 10,000 years ago. There's no word for weightlessness in the English language. We haven't caught up with it. Apparently some 600 people have felt weightlessness. There's nothing that we can describe that is weightless, because only you have to get above gravity, and you have to get above, what is it, 50,000 feet? Something like that. 100,000 feet is the carbon line. So it's impossible to describe. They train the astronauts in swimming, but if you go into the water, it doesn't come anywhere near what weightlessness is. It's so strange. So you can imagine there are cameras all over the spaceship. I saw film of Jeff Bezos enduring weightlessness for the first time. There's a camera like where you are, looking this way. His legs are spread apart, and he's floating his head this way. And the kid is throwing candies at his asshole. Well, go up into space, then I'll be throwing cannons. Now I'm in space. And I think, heck with the cannons, you have a celebration. Oh, look at this way, please. I aim for a window. I want to see the magic of space. I'm looking forward. We're going in that direction, look forward. And I see black. Just blackness. The color of death. I've been an aficionado of space, trying my best to learn the forces of nature that encompass our universe, our galaxy. I've done a lot of studying. I've looked through telescopes. I've done more than most people, and I'm fascinated by what's happening out in space, the magic of the forces of space, the magic that's going on in our very galaxy. Fascinating, studying. I know a little bit about it. I look up, there are no stars out there. There's no moon, there's no sun. You see this ceiling? Look up. Nobody's looking. I thought you all looked. Look at that black. That's how black it is. Color of death. Now I look back this way, and I see our planet. It's blue and white and beige. The Texas desert is beige. All comforting colors. There's Earth. I know as a pilot that there's 12,500 feet of oxygen. Beyond that, you need additional oxygen. So you have 2 miles of livable space above the ground. And I know that the ground is like a handful of dirt that has been worn off or rock. So there's a handful of dirt that we plant things that will keep us alive. And then there's this blue ocean. And the whole thing is like a marble. It's so small. I've been an ecologist for a long time. Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. I read it. She talks about DDT. She talks about global warming. So I've been a voice, as small as it is, warning global warming is going to happen. We're all going to die. And I've tried to extend that message. And I saw how small and vulnerable our Earth is. When we descended through the carbon line and G's and finally landed perfectly safe, and I got out of the vehicle, I started to weep, uncontrollably cry, and I didn't know why I was crying. What's that? Television cameras are on. Why am I crying? What am I didn't know it was intolerable to me. I didn't know what was going on. And it took me several hours to realize I was in grief for our planet. I was crying out of sadness, which I felt so many times when I've heard the algae in the water, and the poisons in our earth, and the poisons in our air, and people falling dead, and the heat, and the future that's been forecasted. I was in grief for all of us. And I didn't realize it until hours later. And so, when I'm asked this question, I take some time to answer so that maybe one of you will carry that message and do something honorable to try and avoid the worst of what's coming. Are you asking questions over there?
Yeah, sure. So I am a theater teacher, and there is a video from the 1960s that has come
What's the film?
So it's a version of Oedipus Rex. It's made by an education company or a university.
Yes, that's me in back there.
What's that?
Imagine you know that for 15 years it's walking. You look at night and it's was it him in the back? Was it him in the background? I don't know. It's driving me crazy. I'm gonna ask him.
I was so happy there was no light. Thank you so much. So wait, let me think.
I don't know. Second argument was, okay, we got a writer from their many writers. Whose God is it? Whose God?
Everyone's the Vulcans, the Romulans, the humans,
Is it the
everyone's
God
God.
of the Buddhists? Is it the God of the Hindus? Is it the God of the Christians? Is it the God of the Jews? Is it the God? And you go on and on. Whose God is it? And where is there an image of a universal God? The guy with the beard and the stone and the halo and all that. That's a man-made God, right? I mean, we agree that's a painter's vision of God. And we don't know what God is, or some people don't know whether God exists. And yet, we have these forces of nature which are so magical and have evolved as a result of scientific laws which are natural. This complexity seems to have evolved well over 11 billion years. Whose God is it? Nobody could agree. My idea was beginning to disappear. Somebody said, what if it's an alien who thinks he's God? And I thought, that's the way to see my concept. I said, what we can work with that? The moment I compromised and said, okay, it's an alien who thinks he's God and he's really the devil, then it got all mixed up. The moment I compromised, I lost my power. I lost the strength of the story. So it brought up the question that is universal. When do you compromise? And when do you be politic about something? I want to go there, I want to go to that movie, I want to go to that movie. All right, let's go to that movie. I want to eat here, I want to eat there, let's go here. We'll eat there tonight, we'll eat there tomorrow night. You can compromise. I have a mantelpiece in my house, and a fireplace. And I put, we've been in the North Pole and brought back a beautiful carving by one of the Inuits and placed it alone on the mantle, a dancing bear. A bear. Just a little offset. And, oh, it's gorgeous. I says, it's gorgeous. I'll put a candelabra over there, a candelabra over there. I said, no, it is. It's the singular fact that the bear is alone on the mantelpiece. Yeah, I think the two candelabras are beautiful. No, it's got to be alone. No, it's got to be with it. There's no compromise. It's either alone or it's not alone. It's not alone, by the way. So when in your life do you decide, you know, I'm standing firm on this principle, whether it's I don't want to eat the dessert, or I'm going to pray to this God of mine. When do you compromise? And when do you settle? Which is civilized. Okay, we'll go to third. And frequently in an argument, if you don't do that side or that side, and you compromise, frequently I have found that it's the best way. This third way is the best way. But there are things that you believe in, that you think are right or wrong, and you can't compromise. And that leads to everything. to destruction, to hate, to war. So I compromised on that moment. And that movie was weaker all the way through. And there were a number of compromises. I wanted to have a exploding rock
Monster.
come chasing after
But
the
they
crew
said the rock
after they
monster
discovered the devil.
But
And that exploding rock would be on fire and smoke and running after us. They said, oh, that's great, man. That's great. And how much would that cost? $250,000 an exploding rock. How many rocks do you want? I said, well, I need 10. That's $2,500,000 out of a $30 million. That's 1/10 of my budget for the 20 rocks.
Rock
I bought
monster,
five
not a rock,
rocks.
rock monster.
Okay, 5 rocks.
It was a rock monster.
Let's take one rock, and I'll photograph it there, and I'll place it there, and then I'll just use movie magic. That didn't work out. They brought up the rock the very last moment, and there's a stunt guy inside the rock. I said, where's the smoke? And I could just see a little bit of smoke there, and I saw tubes going over there. I walked to where the tubes ended, and there were 2 special effects guys. And then the evening breeze, the smoke disappeared. I said, what happened to the fire? He said, oh, the stuntman got burned. And it didn't work out. I had to cancel that. Nothing worked that I wanted. I had to compromise everywhere. So the movie has some good things in it, and some things that are not working because of compromise and budget, ideas, people. It's not as good as I wished for. It's one of the big disappointments of my life because I had a vision. I had a vision that was beautiful, and I didn't realize it. So when anybody says something nice about Star Trek 5, I go, what can I do for you?
But the Kirk Spock McCoy, nobody gets Kirk